Christine. I do it for you. Thank you, Michael. About the insurance agencies. All right, welcome back, folks. I told you I would be back. All right, let's get this show on the road. First off, let's take note of the date. It's January 25th, 2025, 125, 2025. All right, let's get this loop playing here. Forward in reverse. There we go. All right, I'll let that loop play for a second there. And while that's going, I'll take a moment to thank you guys for taking a moment of your precious time to be a part of this precious family. Okay, when you stick around to the spiritual report at the end, you will indeed find out how precious this family is and how precious you are to me. Okay. Whew, that being said, I do this for you. Okay. Found something special and I love to bring it to my family. All right. So here we go. Look at that. A big old blast coming out of this area right here with our spire region. And it's not over because that spire region's still pretty healthy and strong there. So let's go ahead and catch this opening frame here. And we'll just pluck away and march away through these one frame at a time. Okay, so yeah, opening frame right here, 024 of January 25th, 2025. Here we go. All right, you can already see event coming on right here. Some little ship shooting through there too. Let's take a peek at that. But we got our display going, or our CME going on right here. You can already see a small moon right out here in front of it. Something else ejecting over here. Other stuff going on over here. Little shadow of a something moving through there. I'll let you be the judge of that. That looks round and circular, like one of our spheroid things. Get some of this stuff in the background out of the way. Let's go take a peek at this, shall we? And zoom on in and slide it on over. Wonder what's going on there. NASA, you got some explaining to do. Okay, this thing's streaking right across the flow too. So it's saying, hey, look at me, I'm here. Look, it even smile for the camera, kind of. And let's just zoom in even more, okay? Let's go as far in as we can with this, shall we? And get a good shot of what appears to be a craft streaking through the plasma, coming right out of our little spire region, right? Zooming on out. Looks like it's streaking out of that region and not like firing a ray back towards it. I don't know. It could be either or, but I'll let you be the judge of this. It looks like it's streaking through that zone right there, dragging some plasma along with it. Interesting opening frame, huh? All right, let's get back to our regular report here. We can always come back and visit that a little bit later here. Get back to 125. Let me slide this just a tad bit to get to the buttons here. Okay, so opening frame right there, a little ship shooting through there saying, hey, take note of this. All right, and then as we continue on, More little moons, satellites moving through this area. Also, this blast coming out right here. You see a little moon right here behind it. Note this round curvature right here. Okay, we have our flow going out, splaying out in this direction. This curvature right here is the backside of one of our objects right here. Just take you in just a tad bit more there so you can see that right here is the curvature, the backside of our bigger object. You can see our splay and our flow going around it and stuff, and a trailing moon. Okay, so here sneaking through is our bigger object right there, right where that the spire region was. And then you can see like little satellite moons right here, here, some little ones trailing, and then this bigger one back behind it that's causing a CME as well, or causing the instrumentation to react to it. Okay, let's just put it that way, because we don't know if it's causing a CME until we see on the tracker. But there it goes, moving on out. You can see over on this side your little bright patch, dark spheroid back behind it, moving out right through this area. Sometimes you got to switch back and forth and look at one and then the other. Also another craft or something moving right through there. Then those CMEs kind of blend together with our bigger object streaking in a way in the background. And there goes your event right there. And then more trailing satellites and moons hitting the sun, ricocheting off the inner magnetic boundaries. Ooh, there goes a ship squirting through there. Back that up. Yeah, you can see that one. Maybe it was the same one that was streaking through up here at the beginning. Kind of like the movie Star Wars, there was definitely a war in the heavens. There are ships and all kinds of stuff going on around the sun here. Note this long duration event that's been hanging out here, roiling and boiling. We got two spire regions, probably one to wrap around each side of something that's going on right here. Meanwhile, something else sneaking through down here, other little trailing ones. Okay, another event coming out of this region. A lot of stuff going on around the sun here. It's been a busy day around the sun. Even though it doesn't look like a lot. All right, so there we are, back to our opening frame with our little ship shooting through there right there. So let's go ahead and start that loop playing. There goes your bigger object with some of the trailing moons and satellites or whatever. Then more little activity over here, ship squirting through. Meanwhile, this long duration, slow motion activity up there at the top. So let that play for a loop or so there. Let you guys get a... There's Risk 603. Been missing you. I was hoping you'd show up a little while. Good to see you. How big do you think it is? Well, it's bigger than the sun. Okay. Maybe 5 times the size of the sun. Some of these bigger objects, when you see them really silhouetted in a good, good perpendicular to the sun, it gives you a better size comparison. I'll pull up an image where we can size comparison later. You'll see. All right, so there's your activity right now for going on around the sun. If you watch over here in this little corner, you'll see some of the objects squirting through there. Not so blinded by the camera. All right, so there's your activity going on around the sun. It's ramping up. It has been ramping up for the last few days, even though when we come over here, you'll see that our Overall, solar flux indice is dropping. We're down to 205. We're down another 10 points, so that's good. If we drop another 5, we'll be in the yellow and out of the red, so that'll be good. Sunspot number decreased 38 sunspots. So a bunch of those satellites, the bigger objects, there's 38 of them probably, each one creating some kind of roiling or sunspot. And now we've lost 38 sunspots, and we're down to 131. Area back in the green. Let's take a little peek here under the hood and zoom in. Okay, 3961, losing power, rotating off the limb here, so almost done. It's kind of past the little strike zone here too, where it crosses our IMF line. So we kind of bypassed a little connection with it. That's good. Otherwise, the other region's kind of fading. Not much really on the facing side of the sun, the Earth facing side. All right, zooming on out and coming on over. Our geomagnetic storm forecast, our January 25th turned to a 0. We didn't have impact, so that was good. That's kind of good news. You know, don't want to see us absorbing more energy or anything like that. So just really quick, well, you can see the GOES X-ray flux. Let's zoom in a little bit. That's not good enough. I'm going to zoom in really quick and see how fluxed we are. GOES X-ray flux, that is. Swimming pools and movie stars. Okay. Anybody ever seen the Beverly Hillbillies? It's just a little tune, part of their tune, little song. Adopted it as part of my spiel. All right, overall, you can see your solar flux indice is slightly dropping and dropping and dropping and getting lower and lower. You can see our bumpy ride today. Doesn't look like much because this is the instrument is between us and the sun. A lot of that activity that we saw is off to the sides and back behind and at different angles and stuff. So this isn't a real representation of what we saw. It's just a representation of what was between the sun and this satellite, okay? Then we get into a little activity going into tomorrow. Really not much to see, but we better go check anyway, shouldn't we? Uh-oh, not there? Oh, it is there. Never mind. You guys don't want to see it anyways. But tough. We're going to do it anyway. Ooh, geez. What was that? Something squirting out over there. Wow. Let's do, let's catch this opening frame here, I guess. Okay. 024, you can see our event that's up here is finally starting to develop. Here comes a little moon or some kind of satellite coming off of this spire region, really in this area, kind of. Okay, and then we have the rest of this event going on. Let me grab the button here. And boom, boom. That's a bunch of hot plasma right there that's still glowing hot, leaving the sun there, getting pretty far out there and still glowing. Over here on this black and white side, there's your culprit right there. Round black spheroid. See how it's putting an indentation in the red part of the reading here? These objects usually kind of do that. Almost looks like it's got a little companion maybe right next to it. All right, and it's drawing a bunch of plasma. It's ripping a bunch of plasma, taking it along with it. It's still glowing hot. Here, you can see it right there. Let's continue on out. You can see it leaving. Almost appears to have something trailing along with it. You can see another UFO streaking through there. Meanwhile, this event still kind of moving upward and out of frame, kind of slow pace there, but you can see your plasma still glowing way out there as it goes out of frame. So what looked like nothing on the X-ray flux there turned out to be a surprise, huh? Aren't you glad we went and looked now? Yeah, there's a couple of them. Hold this frame. There's one right here, it looks like, too, because you can see it in darker over here. They're darker little spheroids, and then they plasma wraps around them. So here's your shot for going into tomorrow. The big hexagon shape at the Saturn is where magnetic field lines come together up at the polar region, okay? And sometimes it separates the different layers that are made of different ionized particles that can hold a magnetic charge. So some of the upper atmosphere of Saturn is made of particles that can hold an ionized charge, and therefore the magnetic field lines that come in, they intersect with those cloud barriers, those particles or whatever in the air, and causes little indentations, causes those to fall along the field lines, creating a hexagon top shape that's a natural configuration actually on the top of Saturn there. Now let's get the rest of this out of the way. That was a great question, though. I love good questions like that. All right, so let's go ahead and start that really quick, and then boom. Yeah, quite a little blast that came out of there. Two objects, little whatever, side by side, ripping some plasma out of that region. All right, so there's your little nothing turned into something. Okay, so let's back on out now and get to the rest of this. As you can see, geomagnetic forecast all clear for the next 3 days. Thankfully, I will take that all week long. All right, I don't want to see any impacts. We did have the endless spirals showing impact, a couple of double impact, but apparently it didn't show up. So good news to report. Meanwhile, Aurora is still nice and quiet, so there's no impact going on right now. Your KP is way, way down. It's one, less than one, and it bumps up to one here, and then bang, back down. So really, really super quiet. This could be the calm before an impact. There still could be something late showing up, because sometimes we do get a really low period like this before we see a small little, but it looks like it's not coming. Hopefully it's not. I don't want to see an impact, but around here, nothing should surprise us anymore, especially knowing that these objects that induce some of these CMEs retain a lot of that radiation, and when they pass by the Earth's magnetic field, they interact, and then all of a sudden we have a unforeseen stealth CME out of nowhere, causing a geomagnetic storm that was unforecasted. Okay, but all in all, it looks like we dodged a double bullet, because that looked like to be a double impact. So that's good. All right, now over here, as of this update, geomagnetic activity still remains at quiet levels. At least one CME was expected to possibly deliver a glancing blow to Earth's geomagnetic field this weekend, but so far, no impacts have been detected. Now, geomagnetic storming seems less likely with every passing hour, and a further update will be provided should conditions change. All right, we saw this little explosion yesterday off of there. Let's do some track-a-lacking, because we're lacking some tracking. I still want to pull this one open. If we can get this to run one more time. And I showed you that event coming off the top of the sun. Sometimes those long duration ones, not necessarily this event, but sometimes those take a little longer than our normal blast that comes off the sun that hits within about 3-day time period. This is loading up. I don't think it's loading up here. Oh, well. Anyways, there was your double impact right there. All right. And there could be a little deviation in between them where magnetic fields separate. They'll pull each other together, and then at the last second repel and keep an even space like this. So that's kind of what we're looking at, especially when we saw this spiral go here. Okay. Nope, that's not going to work. Well, as you can see, it doesn't want to cooperate. So moving on. Yeah, there. See, this CME here is going off to the right, so that's good. Now, the object that caused this seemed to be kind of going this direction. So as it bounces and hits, like, say, an inner boundary magnetic field, like, say, this black circle, we'll use that as a reference. If something came in and touched and caused a spark right there, the sun would react with the CME going across that direction, hitting the object, but it can still be going in this trajectory. All right. And within a 3 day period, it might, depending on its trajectory, it could possibly brush up against Earth's magnetic field, causing, a surprise geomagnetic storm. Hopefully that doesn't happen, though. Meanwhile, good news to report, the CMEs have been heading away too. So, let's see, we can get out of there now. Come on over to spaceweather.com with Dr. Tony Phillips. And we'll get this pulled up here really quick. Okay, geomagnetic storm watch is canceled. 2 CMEs expected to graze Earth's magnetic field on January 24th and 25th. Missed. Not even a ripple in the solar wind was detected when the CMEs were supposed to pass by. So, as a result, this weekend's geomagnetic storm watch has been canceled. Yay! Hopefully, it stays that way too. Polar stratospheric cloud alert. Okay, we're talking about these PCSs or PSCs, sorry, and particles being up in the upper atmosphere, the polar regions, and now we have more moisture in the air, causing particles, causing water to adhere to these particles that are up higher and causing polar stratospheric clouds. Okay, so you can come over, read more about it, a little touch base with that. Now let's come on over here with our our Schumann tonight. Forgive me there. Cough. All right, there we go. Now, as you can see, we went through some grinding the last couple of days there, and you can see this little line down below, I believe, is probably magma running along the underside of the Earth's crust. Okay, now that activity has stopped, and you can see we had some weakness right here in our 7.83. I'm not too worried about all the grinding and stuff, but if we have, we need good continuity with this 7.83. These lulls where it gets weak like that is not good because it's allowing more exotic particles, radiation from space to penetrate the atmosphere, the magnetosphere, even easier. Okay, so, and then this causes mood swings as well, because the lack of the 7.3, the 7.83, the lack of that Schumann resonance will drive you insane and make you crazy and homicidal and irritable and angry. So this is kind of like an emotional roller coaster ride going on in the background. Russian cosmonauts forgot to put this 7.83 frequency in the spacecraft, and the cosmonauts went mad and killed each other, beat each other to death in the capsule. Okay, so when you don't have it, people get violent and get irritable and violent too. Okay, so you're having these violent mood swings that are going on in the background. Meanwhile, this is also an indication of pressure has built up over this time. We were grinding, we had magma running along the bottom of uh, the underside of the crust, it looks like. Okay, as pressure relieves, we come out of that. It's no longer pushing on the underside so much, but then as we come out of it, you can see we're getting good continuity and a little bit of pressure starting to build what seems to be down at that level right there. Okay, so we had a little up and down today. And even though you guys are, battling out there, this stuff will still come at you sideways, and even other people. You'll just see them step out of character, and you gotta forgive them and chalk it up to the world. They're wrapped up in the world, plus they got this going on in the background, and it messes with the animals too. So if you're seeing some strange activity out of your animals acting scared or something, give them a hug and give them some comfort, because this is going on in the background too. All right, now, excuse me. Let's get on over to null school. Let's get schooled in the null. All right, so whoops, really quick, coming in here, I just want to touch base on our subtropical convergence zone right here. Okay, tropical convergence zone, actually, not subtropical. But it's still above our equator. All right, we still have thermal heating in this region right here that's shunting this up like it is. And before it was way up high, it was at 15 degrees, and it looked like the Earth had tilted 15 degrees, but not yet. It's tilting some, but not that far. We would notice it a lot more. But this is from your thermal activity on the ocean floor here. So now, little face there already. Let's get into the storms. All right, you can see a lot of our vortex rotation going on around here. We still got this rotation up here off the coast of British Columbia, taking weather up into Canada, Alaska area, bringing it back down over the middle part of the United States. Okay, we also have offshore winds coming out of Northern California, wrapping around here. Okay, so it's kind of keeping this area right here free and clear of weather while everybody else is getting hammered. Okay. And then let's just take a peek really quick over here. Wow. This monster right here is unleashing on, well, right in that region we were talking about last night, Spain, Europe, right in that region. It's even getting up into Ireland and England again. Okay, they just got hit with another storm a couple of days ago with 150-mile-an-hour straight line winds. So here's another wallop for these people. Okay. I think let's come over here. Look at this one really quick. There's a big rotation going on there too. All right, down at the southern hemisphere, not so bad. These small ones. All right, let's get into our sandstorm report really quick here. Take off the wind. All right, here we go. As you can see, still lots of sand, dust blowing off of Africa into the Atlantic, crossing, going all the way into South America. All right, so sorry, this camera doesn't like that color, but when we come over here, you can see that this thing is flaring up over here again. One eye here and the other eye flaring up, so it's still there, keeping an eye on that region. Meanwhile, pretty intense sand going on here over the Saudi Arabia, approaching Yemen, Oman area there. It almost looks like this thing's looking right at that area too. Whew. I hope a lot of you people can't see that, but some of you can. And it's all part of the story. Don't let it disturb you. It should well, kind of reinstill this biblical, everything you see going on. Okay. All right, still intense sandstorm coming into China now. Look at this. See how a ribbon of this is pulled off? Let's hit these winds really quick here. Yeah, look at how winds are pulling some of the sand into this, blowing it into China. Okay. All right, even Australia has its own little independent sandstorm. Okay, let's take out these winds and get over to our SO2 report. This is sulfur dioxide, not carbon dioxide, okay? Big difference. This is basically vaporized magma. Okay, magma wants to push up through the pores in the crust, and it can't because the pathways are so tight that only gas can get through. So you're seeing basically vaporized magma, the form of SO2, coming out of the pores of the crust in the earth. Okay. Here's your nation divided. You see one side over on the right, very porous crust, very spongy type material that has a lot of pathways, so it just oozes SO2. Meanwhile, on this side, more mountainous, very granite, thick, rocky, so your perforations are more volcanic in nature. So there's your country divided. Trying to unite. We are trying. Okay, now we need to put on the fires really quick here. Okay, so let's start up here in Canada, where SO2 emissions have started some fires up here in Canada. All right. As I pull back, this is way up there in Canada. Very, very cold up there in Canada. The cold air that comes down into America that's causing all that headaches and stuff. Well, it's way colder up in Canada. So they're having wildfires while it's super cold. Hmm. Okay. You guys got media. You got some answering to do then. Meanwhile, we all understand that this gas comes out of the ground so hot that any kind of surrounding vegetation can spark on fire, can catch on fire, spontaneous combustion. Okay, down here we have this spot here at the Bay Area that's been going on for quite a while. Just using SO2. We haven't had any fire problems in that region, thankfully. Okay, but down here you can see we got a new SO2 plume that's growing up here around this region. Meanwhile, here's where our fires were, or that's where our fire was up there, sorry. Our newer one down here by San Diego, and now one's down into Mexico as well. There was a fire at this one for a while, but that's diminished. Also, where was it? Over here. Look here in Mexico. This really has that signature of a fire that's induced by SO2. So it looks like this is really spreading further south down into Mexico a little bit here. Okay, right there especially, and then even creeping further down, and then over here. I don't know. I'm gonna go into these ones. These ones, there's factories and other industry in the area. Man, awful close to possibly having fires started over here because of SO2 emissions. Those ones are a little harder to say because there's other industries and stuff that are down in that region that could be, have a smokestack or burning off gas in a smokestack. So it's good, Don. At least you're here now. It's better late than never. Okay, so there's that. Let's take off the fires now. And let's move on down. You can see Mexico, all these Cuba, all these islands are all bleeding SO2. They're all volcanic in nature. And you see, especially when the wind gets a hold of it, makes these little plumes. You can see everything's just bleeding SO2. Come on down through South America. These are all individual sites. They're not a plume. Okay. Here's our fulcrum point on our plate boundary system, PUA. And you can see our intense SO2 emission right here. Pretty good tonight. This one pretty strong tonight too. Even the fifth one's hanging in there. This one that it kind of went blob is getting more defined. So we're getting a little round of pressure going on here. Okay, and as you look down, nice and dark emissions coming out of the Chile here, producing a halfway decent sized plume out there to this time. Okay. All that pressure being relieved along here too through these SO2 emissions relieves pressure on the plate boundary and keeps magnitudes and earthquake activity down. Okay, we didn't do proper one last night, so let's stop off at Hawaii, the hub of the Pacific Rim. Okay, much like a bicycle rim, the Pacific Rim has a hub, and here's where pressure comes out in the middle of the plate. Okay, these perforations right here, and we're seeing volcanic activity at Hawaii off and on. Every time we have a new round of pressure come up from down below, Hawaii starts to erupt again. So this ebb and flow of pressure building up and then being relieved at the surface through SO2 emissions, through volcanoes and earthquakes. Okay, let's get into China here. Okay, still very strong emissions through that region. You can see Taiwan here. This is the backside of that plate boundary where we're seeing quakes on Taiwan. Well, right along that crack, it oozes SO2 all the way down to the water right there. It's been a little relief valve as far as earthquakes, but that activity has lessened now because we have SO2 emissions as well as an open uh, vent on the ocean floor just north of it here too. So that relieves pressure in the region too, keeping earthquake activity and magnitudes down. Meanwhile, Japan, volcanic island, you can see North Korea, South Korea, on up into Russia, Siberia, goes all the way up to the top of Siberia. Over here, the Kamchatka, all peppered. Okay, we got volcanoes going off. This one right here on the peninsula, SO2 plume constantly coming out of that one. Okay, then as we come on down, we see Java region. It's very dark tonight. You can see a lot of this is blowing out into the straits. So if you kind of shoved all that coloration back onto the island, it would be pretty rich purple tonight. Okay, so that's a lot of pressure being relieved here at Java. All right, we also have this little pencil island down here that we talk about every night. Just got to reinforce it in case somebody knew. Relieving pressure right here at the plate boundary. Start right here. We're keeping surface quakes down, magnitudes down, and activity down right here where pressure comes up to the surface. Okay, you see Australia still having its issues, SO2 emission sites. Okay, India darkening up as well. This gas comes out, blows up into the Himalayas, but it can't cross over, so it keeps circulating back around, just intensifying the density of this gas over that region, making it thicker and thicker. Meanwhile, you see the Middle East filling in here, getting darker and darker each day, more and more of these plumes opening up. And they also are having methane emissions, which is flammable gas. So methane emissions coming out of the ground at thousands of degrees, all it needs is oxygen. It's already at temperature to be on fire just by its temperature. So when it hits the air, it just bursts into what looks like a flame jumping out of the ground, out of a pit of sand. So spreading around the world, slowly but surely creeping into country after country. Before it was the 4 little dots along the Sierras, and everybody flipped out for a while, and then they got forgotten about, and now it's just all over the place. And I guess there's more important things going on. Anyways, I'll continue to report on this and bring it to you. All right, so there's your SO2 report for tonight. Now let's move on to our sea surface temperature anomalies, okay? And this will be as of yesterday because this, whoa. All right, so yeah, this is of the 23rd, so it looks a little bit older, but we're still going to hop into it a little bit here. I'm going to come over to this region. Okay, we still have this heat on the west coast right here. It stops at the LA feature right here, that eyeball type feature, but you can see there's heat right on the rim, right on the edge of that feature. Okay, so it's trying to encroach in the area, but our little feature's kind of holding it off right there. Okay, but it is right on the edge of it. Meanwhile, it's pushing right up along the coastline here of California, creeping up into the Pacific Northwest a little bit more and more. We were watching this dot the other day, and if we'd seen a new updated thing, this was the 24th, we'd probably see a little lightening of this coloration right here. Let's go back a day. You can see it increased from the 22nd to the 23rd. And then all of a sudden there's nothing for the 24th yet. So a little behind tonight, but meanwhile, pressure growing in that region. You saw me back it up a day and then go forward. So a couple of days, just about 24 hours ago, there was an increase in pressure in that region. Okay, we'll see you in a little bit. All right, let's move on. We got this up here and continuing to have emissions out here, or heat plume growing, and this is the North Pacific in the middle of winter. Okay, so something on the ocean floor is going on right here, and we've seen earthquake activity right in this region lately because of increased pressure in the region. Meanwhile, we were talking about the Kamchatka and all the volcanic activity on it. Look at all the pressure that's, all the red that's surrounding it here. Okay, this is all warmer water being created by ocean vents on the floor, oozing and warmer water, hotter water, steam, whatever in this region. And then underneath this, since this is above the water, well, of course, you're seeing this increase underneath the land there too. And we're seeing an uptick in volcano activity in there. Meanwhile, Japan, and in between Japan right here and Korea, hot water in between there, creeping all the way up into this bay now. So North Korea is surrounded by hot water on both sides. South Korea, not so bad. But then we come down to Taiwan here. You can see here's our open vent on the ocean floor. Plus we have a lot of SO2 coming out of here, relieving pressure here at our fulcrum point on the plate boundary right there. So not as many earthquake. Well, we've seen earthquake activity kind of uptick in this region. And we're seeing, widespread pressure going through this whole region, breaking through the surface here up north and everything. So there's a lot of pressure underneath that region, and we're starting to see more earthquakes now coming out of that. We had seen a little lull in activity, and now Taiwan's kind of coming back to life. We come down through here, you can see all of this is going off around Fiji. Okay, we got a lot of venting on the ocean floor next to this volcano. This is a volcanic island. All of these are right over here. Okay, and then your plate boundary system starts right about here and goes right up through there. So a lot of heat, a lot of pressure in that region. And then this big monster over here. There's a lot of venting, a lot of seamounts opening up on the ocean floor here, probably just square miles of just boiling water out there where no telling what's going on the ocean floor right there. But another big patch right there, and these two patches, when they're that size like that relieves a lot of the pressure globally, keeping some of this pressure up here down to a minimum. You see what I'm saying? It's not as bad as that. So the path of least resistance, well, we got a big path of least resistance, a big hole in the bicycle tube down here, okay? And you can see around here, New Zealand filling in along this area and stuff, along the coast of Australia. Now, this is their summertime, and they get warm water and stuff down there, but let me show you something. This regular sea surface temperatures, standard sea surface temperatures, your warmer hot water's up here by the equator, okay, in your tropical, subtropical region, not down here. See your greens and your yellows and almost blue down here? Now, when we take it down to this, now you see the difference. It's not summertime warm water. This is all volcanic in nature on the ocean floor. Meanwhile, we see Java vents a lot of pressure, keeping, temperatures down there, allowing for cold water inundation sometimes. So that's an indication that, pressure relieving and growing and relieving in this area. So tonight, a little bit of relief there. Down here, stuff going off of Madagascar, Southern Africa, even the South Atlantic here. Off of South America, out here where our magnetic anomaly is. Whoops. Whoa, what are you doing? Come back here. Alright, even something going on along the Mid-Atlantic Rift right here. Alright. Also, in the Gulf of America, we have these little spots. They're kind of diminishing. They're still there in strength, but in size, they're kind of getting smaller, and you can see cold water inundation around the coastline here, trying to fight cool off in this area because it's wintertime, but we still have something going on the ocean floor. This one's getting bigger. This one seems to be receding a little bit, but it's keeping warm, moist air in the region in case airflow changes. It goes up into there, and then all of a sudden we have severe weather. Now let's go ahead and put our winds back on here, and you'll see your flow patterns and why they're flowing the way they are because of the hot, cold air masses. Hot air over hot water, cold air over cold water, hot air rising and cold air rushing in to replace it, causing rotation like this right here. And it doesn't necessarily have to be cold. It's just cooler than the hotter air. Okay, temperature different variations cause rotation and wind. Up here, we're talking about off the Kamchatka, cold and hot right next to each other. You can see your center of rotation is basically right there. So that rotation right there being caused by the differential in hot water, cold water right there, driving a lot of that air. It's this gear right here that's driving a lot of that up into Alaska and back down over. Okay. We also have this rotation, cold, hot, right next to each other, causing rotation. That's contributing the inflow to this gear, okay, that's driving stuff up. So this is feeding it in that direction so it continues to flow up and over Alaska and then back down across the plains. All of our weather being controlled by these thermal anomalies on the ocean floor. Not so much our jet stream anymore, but more along the lines of this. Just really quick over here. Cold air dipping way down again to the Gulf right here and drawing back up, coming over, all because of our air patterns. This is more circulating like this inside the Gulf than it is getting up into there. So it's either cold and dry or you get that moisture up in there and then you're going to get severe weather. So maybe it's better that it's just cold and dry for right now because we don't want a bunch of too much moisture getting up into this and causing too much. Well, we're seeing some icing events already, but it could be worse. So all right, let's kind of pull back. You can see our La Nina has been affected because of the thermal anomalies right here, and that's your tropical convergence zone right there. Down here, you can see your thermal rotations because of heat plumes. There should be one big one right there. Oh, there is. There's the rotation, center of rotation right there. Everything else is going all the way around it. You see your center of rotation right there, right where the hot and cold are. And as I back out, it's kind of not so visible, but your center of rotation is there and the whole conveyor belt going around it like this. All right, so there's that. Now, what else did I show? Let's go up here to North Pole just really quick. You can see north of Iceland here. Whoa, let's take the winds up now. North of Iceland right here. Here's Iceland. Way up here, this little island up by the North Pole, way up in the Arctic Circle. A heat plume up there. Okay, so this is not just temperature waters. This is the water in the ocean. Ocean floor being heated by vents. Also, something going on in the Black Sea. You can also see here, this is no longer just landlocked heat or whatever, because there's cold water being trapped in one corner and hot water in the middle. Other cold water being pinned in the corners here. So that tells me there's something thermal going on underneath these bodies of water as well. Look in the Mediterranean, these readings seem to be more true than, false readings because of water flow not getting in there and distributing cooler water. So we're actually seeing, this is more looking like the volcanic venting that should be going on in that region as well. I'll let you be the judge of this as well. we were talking about the Great Lakes the other night, so we're going to come over here and take a peek at these ones and start reporting on this because you can see we're getting little heat plumes, little inundations into the cold water up here, pinching it off into the corners. So that tells me when it's shoving cold water into corners like that, that's a real heat plume that's doing that. So we're seeing this kind of activity taking place in the Great Lakes, and this causes lake effect snow. Now you got warmer, moist water, and cold air comes down from Canada, goes across this, induces snow, and on the backside of these lakes, you're seeing lake effect snow getting deep in some regions and getting dangerous. Okay, because of your warmer lakes this year, probably warmer than normal. Okay, West Coast, we had a little 4.7 out here. Looks like we could still use some more activity around the Juan de Fuca. Nothing too big, but mid-range 4 to 5, something that could relieve some of the pressure. Otherwise, area in LA looking better right there. All right, so all good. Now, let's pull on back. Good to see you here, love always. People were asking about you, hoping you were okay, so I could tell them you're doing good. Now, let's continue on with our earthquake report. We don't need this human anymore. And here we go. Let's get this all set up for your viewing pleasure and dive into our deep quake region down here. Okay, when I was setting up to do the show, there were a couple of recent quakes. This one and our bigger one here were just not too long ago. But let's get into this first. Here's your 4.3 down at 431. Now that's not too deep down there. That's coming up a little bit from way down deep, just up a little bit in the strata. So not a super deep quake, but semi-deep at a 4.3, which is a little bit lower than our regular magnitude. Our more recent quake is your mid-range 4 now, down at 174, so even shallower and even stronger by a couple points there. Your island that bleeds SO2, relieving pressure in the area. We've seen heat increasing in this region. This is not relieving enough, and now we're starting to see earthquake activity at a volcanic site here. Okay, Vanuatu down at 265. Also, this is not on the plate boundary. This is on a volcanic island. A 5.3 here at Vanuatu down at 39. All right, so a little uptick in magnitude at a volcanic site right there. And we haven't seen all that much activity along here. And it's starting to pick up a little bit now. So nothing through this region tonight. But up here we have a mid-range 4 at 207. On the weak zone, 4.6 down at 35. Fulcrum point right around that area, just south of it. Oh, pretty much close there. Mid-range 4 down at 166. This is still all volcanic features. Stuff still coming up from down below. Not a lot of surface activity. Okay, now we're getting into Taiwan, where we've seen our quake activity uptick now. Our SO2 coming out of this region. Here's your plate boundary going right through the line, right through the island right there. Starting off with some of the smaller ones, 4.9 at the surface. What do you do with 4.9s here, especially at the surface? And when we have these other ones, like a 5.2 at the surface right next to it, another 5.1 right next to it. And what's this one? 4.5. So few 5 magnitudes and mid-range 4 right there. Okay, a lot of energy being relieved at this spot. It used to be on this side right here in this little fulcrum point. Now it's kind of seized up in there. We got pressure being relieved on the ocean floor over here. Now our weak spot is on the back side here, where we're seeing SO2 emissions and our uptick in earthquake activity. So our little spot that kind of vents pressure here, relief valve, kind of doing its job again there. I went through all that down below. Come over here to China. You can see on the backside of this fulcrum point how it's pinched off all these mountains, and then there's another kind of fulcrum point activity over here. 4.1 at the surface there, and a 4.4 at the surface here. This round type feature pushing back the other way. This one pushing up, and this one pushing down, kind of putting a pinch and a twist in that. Nothing around this weak spot in Nepal today. That's good. Meanwhile, still activity in Iran here, 4 at the surface. So still a path of least resistance, a weak spot going on there in Iran. Otherwise, Africa quiet tonight. A little odd quake here on Australia. It's a 3.9 here at York, Australia. This might be a little diverse quake right here, because I'm not seeing too much as far as fault activity or volcanic featuring yet. This old dried up riverbed. What's going on over here? That's just from salt. Okay, this is just salt deposits. All right, little strange quake going on here. A little diverse quake right there. And if we come over to the temperature map here, over to Australia, just take a peek. Yeah, sure enough, look at what's going on over here. A lot of stuff being cut loose on the shore. It is relieving a lot of pressure, but there's stuff underneath there, underneath the land, and causing diverse quakes in that region. And there's your diverse quake, 3.9, especially at a 9.8, right close to the surface there. So not your typical quake. That's a diverse quake right there because it's not your usual activity. We also have this down here in New Zealand, 4.4 down at 36 there. Fulcrum point quake over here at South America, a 4.3 down at 140 there. And then we're going to get into America with all magnitude marker. All right, here we go. Nothing around the Kamchatka. We saw the pressure in that region, but we have volcanoes relieving pressure, so keeping activity down in the region. This is the first little spot I like to check if there's no microquaking. 3.4. That's your typical activity that we see there. Okay, it's like a mid-range 3. When pressure comes up in this region, that's about what we see. And when we come back to Alaska, well, let's take the long way, Brian. Right here. There's your pressure building up in the region, and now here's your earthquake activity happening right there in that region. And just off to the side is a 2.5 down at 106, so volcanic in nature. Coming up through your fulcrum points, I think your biggest quake could be this one back here. 3.1 at Denali, up by the fulcrum point, coming back down. Juan de Fuca, pretty quiet. We got a couple fulcrum point quakes here, right off the tip, with a 1.6 and a 2.5, not much. We could use a little bit more in that region, relieving more pressure in that region, okay, before heat and stuff starts to build, and then we see a bigger magnitude quake. So still a little bit going on. That's something better than nothing. Also, just to touch base really quick up here, not necessarily magnitude, but earthquake activity at Rainier and earthquake activity at St. Helens here on the flank and at the peak here is an indication of pressure at volcanic site, pressure down below. Okay, there's your geysers always going off there. We're seeing little activity over there. It's not much, but then right out here off the plate boundary in this little feature out here on this shelf is your oddball quake, your 2.9 down to 35. That's because of the heat in that area and the pressure in that region. I showed you this red stripe growing on the west coast here. We had cold water all through that area a while ago, and now it's starting to grow back. And here we are right off the Bay Area, and with your main blob of heat right off the shore. Well, that's an indication that pressure underneath is pushing this up. There's pressure under here causing earthquakes offshore. There's your diverse quake. It's not on a plate boundary. It's not a feature. So that's your oddball quake. That's your diverse quake being caused because of the pressure down below. 2.1 magnitude there, 2.4 over there. Just cruising on down, not much to look at. Okay. Your teardrop eyeball type feature right here coming out off the coast, going back in. Now, there's not a bunch of heat and pressure under there, but there is activity pushing along the boundary here, along your plate boundary, San Andreas. And we're getting little 2-4s here, 2-3 there, not much. Mainly just right along that area. Okay, we come over to Texas, man-made perforations in the crust. Well, pressure comes up through those as well, causing earthquakes. And just our recent activity, magnitude 2, biggest one of the day, probably 2.8. Okay, so a little slight uptick, but not too bad. Sometimes we see 3s there. A little activity in Kansas, but nothing around the New Madrid or up the Craton today. So that's good. Coming over here, bouncing all around tonight. Sorry, I'm moving so fast. Little magnitude check, 3.9. We've seen an uptick in our overall average here. Here's a 4, so it's been about 3.7 lately average, which was an uptick from before. And this is a little higher than 3.7, so a slight little uptick in pressure in this region. Indication of pressure down below, working its way up to the surface. Excuse me. Alrighty, I think we're done. Yeah, let's get on over to our volcano report. You guys are holding tough. You're hanging in there. All right, so can you see up above here, 37 erupting and 39 in warning? That is a total of 76 volcanoes. Now, 7 years ago when all this stuff started happening to me, if I had told you back then when we had one volcano, the idea of 76 volcanoes sounds crazy. If I had told you 7 years from now we're going to have 76 some odd volcanoes, you would have said, Brian, you're crazy. Well, here we are, 7 years later. 76 volcano, and yes, I am still crazy about you. Now, let's get into it. Quit chugging olive oil all night, you guys. Jeez. You might have to go to Oil Anonymous. Okay, Sakurajima, Ibu, IBU, Luatobi. Spattering of sparks as it comes out of the ground at night. Sakurajima erupted 8,000 feet. Kenlone 9,000 feet. Ibu, I be with you at 8,000 tonight. All right, we're getting cozy at 8,000. Luatobi 8,000 as well. Semaru 15. It's usually 14, so when you see it pushing 15, that means lots of pressure in that region. That's our most reliable one. Every day it's going off to 15, 14,000 feet. Meanwhile, here we are, Kilauea. The eruption of Kilauea within the Humalauri corridor came to a pause at 12:36. As lava flows from the north vent ceased, episode began at 11:28. All right, so we're seeing ebbs and flows out of Kilauea. Okay, and that used to be our only volcano for the longest time, was this. Now we got Popocatépetl right next to Mexico City. I mean, this huge volcano right next to Mexico City. Shoving blasts at 20,000 feet next to millions of people, probably getting them a little uneasy every time this thing going off, 20,000 feet. Meanwhile, Santa Guida, Guatemala, 13,000, Reventador, 14,000, and that's just in the last few minutes because here's today, which is now yesterday, because, well, time flies at this channel. So let's get into it, shall we? We don't need the state records, no. There's your map of insanity. Meanwhile, up here at the Kamchatka, all these are currently erupting. Shivelush, Kluchevskoy, Bizamani, Karaminsky, Alade, and Ebiko. We have down here in Japan, Sakurajima, Suenoshijima, Nishishima-shima, and Iwo-jima. Okay. Boy, there's just too many to name. Very scary map. Map of reality. Yeah, our insane reality. Because this map used to not exist. And within the 7 years, now look at it. It's crazy. Don't forget Kilauea active, Home Reef new active. These ones out here on the Alaska Aleutian chain coming to life. Okay, and don't forget we also have a currently erupting volcano on the continent of Antarctica. All right, so every continent, there's not one that's free of this. 2 volcanoes going off on Iceland now, taking turns. Meanwhile, don't forget Stromboli and Etna. There's a lot of people around those, so those blasts could be devastating in that region too. Okay, yeah, stuff they probably shouldn't have on the news. Only for mature audiences only. And if you're here and part of this audience, that must mean you're mature. Hopefully you are. Sakurajima 6,000, Suenoshijima 5,000, Dude chugging oil at unknown level, unknown. IBU 8,000 still, Luatobi 12,000. Okay, that's a pretty good blast out of Luatobi. Here's Luatolo, lesser, on 6,000. Semaru 14. So here was a 14,000 foot blast earlier today, and then we just seen a 15,000 blast out of Semaru. So it's just chugging along, pumping every day. Boom, boom, boom. And Lizard Hunter, hang in there. We'll get you a wrench, buddy. I got to do my own homework. It's my bad. We'll get you a wrench, though. Meanwhile, back to the Dacono. It's got 7,000. Popocatépetl 20 still. Santiaguito, Fuego 15. Walmart 19, 21, 24, 27, and 30. All right, so lots of volcanic activity going on because a lot of pressure coming up from down below. All right. Then it's time for the tidbits, your tropical tidbits. Everybody put out your hand, grab a tidbit, handing out your little tropical tidbits. For you guys that like models, well, here we go, but they're forecast models. All right, my little. We have a lot of moisture in our air. The moisture content has, it's hard to say doubled or tripled, but the percentage has increased in the last 7 years. The more volcanic activity we have on the ocean floor that heats water that then evaporates into the air. Okay, it becomes part of the air, and the water vapor content in the air is increasing in percentage year after year after year. As we have volcanic explosions, our particulates are increasing year after year after year. So more moisture, more particulates, more clouds in your air, stronger storms, taller thunderheads, increased tornado activity, hurricane activity, the whole gambit, everything that comes with weather, flooding, even droughts and wildfires and all that stuff that comes with it too. Okay, so we are seeing a change in our weather and increase in intensity in all aspects of our weather. And then we also have the spiritual realm having its way with it. Okay, so very volatile, very hard to predict. Here we are, current conditions. You see moisture coming up here. You see this finger of moisture being drawn up into Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas area. Current conditions, nighttime in January. You see cold air ridge on the backside over here. Uh-oh. There's the morning of the 26th. Noon, convection, nighttime. Oh, good. They didn't meet up and kiss. So here's a little bit of convection going on at nighttime because the air is cooling off. Okay, this is all moist plume. Then it cools off at nighttime. You see possibility for little flare-ups for severe weather, but nothing too bad. There's the morning of the 27th. Noon, convection, nighttime. Morning of the 28th, noon, convection, nighttime. 30th or 29th, sorry, morning of the 29th, noon, convection, nighttime. Morning of the 30th. Okay, so we were seeing an ice storm starting to form over here the other day. It looks like it has changed now. This cold air kind of dropping down and getting behind this, creating severe weather now, morning time of the 30th. Let's go back a frame because you can see they're touching here, but there's no ice now. Okay, so now it's more of this southern plume coming up this way. Severe in the morning hours where cold air is. There's the noon time of the 30th. Okay, here we go. Convection. We're seeing a quasi-linear kind of blossom here. This is a different type here. There it's going quasi-linear by nighttime. There it goes, really linear. Morning of the 31st. Noon, convection, nighttime. There's a little bit icing across the top there. Yep, little scatters, pink, 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 as it pops under the cold air pops underneath that warm moist air. Okay, so icing there by the nighttime of January 31st. There's February 1st, noon, convection, nighttime, morning of the 2nd. Big round coming in up here, severe weather hitting the coastline. Now this is pretty getting far out past our reliability, so we're just going to kind of plot through this. Noon of the 3rd, convection, nighttime, morning of the 4th. Noon, convection, nighttime, morning of the 5th. You see icing going across there. Noon, convection of the 5th, nighttime the 5th. Wow, look at that. Ooh, morning of the 6th, going up into Canada. Ouch. Noon the 6th, convection, nighttime. Oh, look at this backside. Oh, let's pray that this doesn't happen because this is a huge, huge swath. It's quasi-linear band coming up. You got icing on both sides. All of this is going to fill in with snow. That's a monster right there. Wow, the models, people are probably in shock going, what? I've never seen a model predict that before. It looks like a big giant question mark. But that's way out there by February 6th. So let's pray that all changes. Morning of February 7th. That is gnarly storm. Very, very intense ice, very deep snow, intense trough right there. Different bands of ice, different thickening, and oh my gosh, that is nuts right there. So let's pray that doesn't happen. Let's back up a little bit. So this low right here, let's go back. Whoops, I just wanted the frame. Okay, so this low is still hanging out. It starts right about there around February 3rd, which is still outside our time frame of reliability. But around February 3rd, if we start to see this storm move in on the West Coast, you see that low right here marching in? That's the one. It rotates, wraps up, grabs a bunch of this snow around behind it. Now here it is moving into Colorado area. You can see the center of it now. Here's your whole bubble with your ice forming right there by the 5th. And then it just launches up through the Great Lakes region, up into Canada, and continues to grow, drawing more moisture up from here, going very, this is a dangerous scenario right here. A couple of quasi-linear severe troughs like that at convection at around the afternoon time of February 6th. Let's pray that this doesn't happen. Let's pray there's a little change in configuration on the ocean floor that diverts this whole pattern and changes this scenario, because that is going to be storm of the century right there. Man. And with more severe weather trailing behind it in its wake. After that big storm moves out, okay, you see the The tail end of it kind of snap away there, but here's still the tail. It's broken off, but it's still reaching back down in there, drawing more of that up in there for a second little round. We'll have to watch that as it approaches and pray that that changes. Meanwhile, our main event, just a little pop-ups down here tomorrow afternoon. Everything else kind of clear for the next couple of days. Our icing event changed into more of a afternoon thunderstorm event there. So here we are, January 29th. Today being the 26th now. So this is right outside the window of predictability, but it's right there. So severe weather starting around the morning time of the 30th. So cold air mass cooling and hitting this warm, moist air right there in the morning hours of the 30th could catch some people off guard. Severe weather early morning. Then it really gets organized by the noontime and even more organized by the afternoon. And that's when you see your tornado activity a lot of times. Even going into the nighttime and getting, more organized as far as linear fashion. And then right there, the morning of the 31st, you see the red, this intense red stripe through there. That's your hatch risk right there. Probably 10-15% chance of severe tornadoes in that time frame. And going through Louisiana, Arkansas, and up into Mississippi around the 31st. But kind of just outside our window. So we got to watch these next few days after this little area comes in. If it pushes down in there and we don't get our little ice event, it might actually turn into a severe thunderstorm event. Right there would be very dangerous. The morning time of the 31st, catching a lot of people off guard while they're still sleeping with that would definitely spawn some tornadoes right there if that was the if this is the predictability of it. Kind of breaking up by noon, reorganizing by the afternoon, kind of dissipating at night. Now the cold air is creeping in up there. Morning time. All right, so that's our next little event to kind of watch in the meantime. And stay alert. Some of these things are changing so fast that this little storm right down here that's popping up in Texas, this thing up here, tomorrow morning it's raining in that region. Still by noon it's raining. Afternoon it gets a little more intense. And then at nighttime there's little chances for pop-ups. That could intensify or it could diminish. We just got to watch carefully. Anything these days can kind of catch you a little off guard. So just better to be prepared. Tomorrow night in Louisiana, Alabama area, just have your head on a swivel. And it's pretty much gone. And then snow up in the northern areas still. Yeah, a little bit coming through the Great Lakes, your lake effect snow around the afternoon of the 28th, right through there. See how that comes through there, creating snow going across the lakes. And then your next event coming up here, 29th. So still kind of out of our time frame. So that's about it for all of that. We've got our astrophysics, our geophysics, all that great stuff done. Now let's all take a break and breathe a deep breath and get into what some would call metaphysics. Basically, how you operate and how you work. Okay? A lot of stuff has happened to me. I have learned through experience something I wasn't like asking for or looking for. It just happened to me. Okay. And we pull up all kinds of great stuff. I got some stuff to read to you tonight. And then we'll get our show finished up here. Let's get on over my channel. Forgive me, I have to do this every time. I used to have a nice computer that I could load up everything in all in one show, and I didn't have to click around. I could just go from one scene to the next. But as time goes on, my computer gets old compared to technology. All right, Right there's pretty good. You can see the heart right there. Never mind my face over here. It's all blurry anyways. But right here, here's the man pulling open his shirt, exposing his heart. These rays coming out, creating my face in the clouds. Okay, and let's get to giant face black moon. Just FYI, the camera to catch this event, very expensive camera, very reliable camera, by the way. This P9000 is no joke to get these images nice and crystal clear like that. So you're talking very expensive, very serious camera that captures very quality images. And this, I would say, is a pretty quality image out by the, if you're looking out by the moon. All right, and it's a real face. Happened to recognize it when I looked at it. I'm like, oh my God, that's my face. What the heck is my face doing up there? I don't want my face all over the place. I'm not a big tension fiend. But it is what it is. Okay, so here we go. Let me get the light going here. Get this show on the road. 7 years ago, about 2 weeks before the revelation star alignment, some weird stuff started happening to me. Now, I just become a believer about a year or so before, and I was pretty strong in my faith, and then all of a sudden I was tested with my faith, and all this stuff started happening to me. I don't think we really need to go too much into the history of it tonight. We're just going to get into our reading here. I got some stuff I picked out for you guys. Yeah, that's right where I want it. Okay, perfect. I think we will start off with this one, even though it's kind of ominous looking. Still get to understand that's what my face looks like kind of right now, with my book light shining half on one side of my face. Now, hopefully you're experiencing my presence, and I want you to enjoy the warmth of my presence shining upon you. Feel your face tingle and light up as you bask in my love light. I delight in you more than you can imagine, and I approve of you continuously, for I see you cloaked in my light, arrayed in my righteousness. So there is no condemnation for those who are clothed in me. That is why I hate the use of guilt as a means of motivation among Christians. Okay, the using guilt as motivation, ooh, it's terrible. It drives people away from. So I hate people using guilt as motivation. Okay. Now, some pastors try to whip their people into action with guilt-inducing sermons. This procedure can drive many people to work harder, but the end does not justify the means. Guilt-evoking messages can undermine the very foundation of grace in a believer's heart. Okay? Guilt-evoking messages undermine all the hard work I'm trying to do here. This foundation that I'm trying to build, all that guilt-evoking stuff undermines that foundation that I'm trying to build with you. Okay? So those guilt-evoking messages that can undermine the foundation of a believer's heart, okay? It can ruin our relationship. I'm not a guy who uses guilt evoking at all, and I hate it when people do that to me. People guilt trip me all the time into doing stuff for them, and I hate that. All right? I'm sure a lot of you don't like being guilt tripped into doing something, people manipulating you using guilt trip type tactics. Okay, it drives people away from Christianity. I hate, totally undermines the foundation. So don't let that happen to you. Okay, don't let those guilt-evoking messages undermine this foundation that I've built with you. Now, Now, some pastors may feel successful when their people are doing more, but I look at their hearts. You see, I grieve when I see grace eroding with weeds of anxious works creeping in. Okay, people are getting anxious about their works. There's weeds creeping in, these weeds of anxious. Oh, did I do it right or am I doing enough? It's not about your works. Okay, and I grieve when I see this grace, which is forgiveness, because of the guilt-inducing messages that you're going through. I grieve when I see that grace is eroding away with weeds of anxious works that are creeping into your mind. Okay, I don't want that. I don't want that at all. I want you to relax in the assurance of my perfect love. The assurance. That's what this is really helping. The assurance of my perfect love. All right? You need to understand that part right there because that helps ease what's going on. These guilt-induced undermining foundation activity that's going on, okay? I want you to relax in the assurance of my perfect love. The law of my spirit of life has freed you from the law of sin and death. Okay? The law of spirit of life. Come on, go out there and live life, enjoy life, and hard times cry, and in good times laugh. That's living fully, okay? That's the spirit of life. And the law of my spirit of life has freed you. It has freed you. It has freed you from the law of sin and death. Your sins are forgiven. You can keep going forward. You're not hung up on yesterday's sins or this and that. You overcome them and you take it on. You take it on each day. You accept these things each day as they come. That's the world coming at you, and you're accepting these things each day. So accept each day exactly as it comes to you. And by that, I mean not only the circumstances of your day, but also the condition of your body. Your assignment is to trust me absolutely, resting in my sovereignty and faithfulness. Now, on some days, your circumstances and your physical condition feel out of balance. I went through that all day today, okay? This is something I experienced all day today, and I am bringing you fresh off the street, okay? This is just happened today. Spiritual warfare that is fresh off the street, okay? So, your circumstances and your physical condition feel out of balance, don't they? The demands on you seem far greater than your strength. And days like that present a choice between two alternatives: giving up or relying on me. Now, even if you wrongly choose the first alternative, I will not reject you. You can turn to me at any point, and I will help you crawl out of the mire of discouragement. I will help you crawl out of the mire of discouragement. Okay? There's discouragement all over the place. There's some encouraging things lately, but there's still discouragement. Okay? But I will help you crawl out of the mire of discouragement. So at any point when you feel like you've lost contact, I can help you crawl out of that discouragement. I will infuse my strength into you moment by moment, giving you all that you need for that day. So trust me by relying on my empowering presence. Empowering presence. Right there. There's an empowering presence, right? Okay. On some days, your circumstances and your physical condition feel out of balance. That Schumann's going off, and you just don't feel like you have the strength for the day. And those are days like you can downshift. I liken it to like a old 4-speed manual. If you want it, you don't have to run in fourth gear at top speed all day. You can downshift into third and slow down your pace, slow down everything, and you'll still get stuff done. Okay, so it's important you know when to kind of when your physical condition and your circumstances feel out of balance, maybe slow down, take your, downshift a gear and take it a little slower. Instead of running along your path, walk with me along your path of trust. The most direct route between point A and point B is your life journey. Wait. The most important route between point A and point B on your life journey is the path of unwavering trust in me. So the quickest point, the most direct route is unwavering trust in me. Now, when your faith falters, you choose a trail that meanders and takes you well out of your way, and you will get to point B eventually, but you will have lost precious time and energy. So as soon as you realize you have wandered from your trust path, look to me and whisper, I trust you, Jesus. And this affirmation will help you get back on track. Okay? You might have to do it several times a day or a couple of times. Maybe one day you don't have to do it. But sometimes you have to realize that you've wandered from the trust path. And when that happens, simple little prayer, I trust you, Jesus. A little thank you for helping me overcome the situation today. All kinds of small little prayers put you back on that trust path. Okay. I go so fast sometimes. I'm trying to get multiple things done and I'm trying to squeeze too much into one plate, into one thing, and I end up going around in circles and not getting as much done because I chose a trail that meanders and takes me out of my way. And when I find that happening, I myself have to take a moment, say a few prayers, get in touch with Jesus, and be like, "Hey, step away from this for a moment. Help me, guide me. We need to get this from point A to point B." All right, so I use that unwavering trust, and then get right back on the path. Try it. It will help you. It helps you through your day when you're struggling, okay? Because this obstacle course is not easy. And you're trying to get from point A to point B, and sometimes you're wandering from the path. When you find you're doing that, an affirmation of trust, okay, is all it really takes. And this affirmation will help you get back on track. Now, the farther you roam along these paths of unbelief, the harder it is to remember that I am with you. So anxious thoughts branch off in all directions, taking you farther and farther away from my awareness, away from the awareness of my presence. Okay? All these anxious thoughts got you going all these different directions that are taking you away from the awareness of my presence. That's what you got to keep going back on. You're losing traction that day, get back into the awareness of my presence. I am here. It's real. I'm back. Walking in the flesh, the word made flesh walking among you. Okay, when that hits you, you are aware of my presence. Okay, so all these things got you anxious, all these thoughts branching off, even paths of unbelief. Redirect your focus back to the awareness of my presence. And you need to voice your trust in me frequently, and this simple act of faith will keep you walking along the straight paths with me, and trust in me with all your heart, and I will make your paths straight. Okay? Even though it's a obstacle course, you keep getting up, you keep going, that's making your path straight. Doesn't seem like it, but you're overcoming the obstacles. And you look back, When you see the path in front of you, it looks all bumpy, and it looks bumpy when you're going through it. But today, look back at your path. It wasn't all that bad. It smoothed out. When you look back at it, it's not as bad as it was, or it could have been. So, you got to look at it that way. Is this the closer? Or is this a closer? I got two closers for this one. Oh, good for you guys. Lucky for you guys, I got two closers for this one. So, again, I want you to understand when you see this foundation, I keep showing this one every night because this is foundation work. This is your rock, this is your foundation, your anchor, your hope, trust, everything right in there. Okay? And what's important for you to understand is that I am always available to you. And once you have trusted me as your Savior, I never distance myself from you. Sometimes you may feel distant from me, but recognize that as a feeling and do not confuse it with reality. Do you hear me? When you feel distant from me, recognize it as just a feeling. It's just a feeling. Don't confuse it with reality. The reality is that I'm right there with you, okay? So when you feel distant, don't let that feeling get to you. Don't let it confuse you. The reality is that I'm right there. And the Bible is full of my promises to be with you always. As I assured Jacob when he was journeying away from his home into unknown places, that I am with you and I will watch over you wherever you go. My last recorded promises to my followers was, surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Let these assurances of my continual presence fill you with joy. Okay, my continual presence with you should fill you with joy. As you see things crumbling around you and everybody freaking out, you can still have joy. Let these assurances of my continual presence with you fill you with joy and with peace, too. So, no matter what you may lose in this life, you can never lose your relationship with me. Aha, religions come and go, but you can never lose your relationship with me. Ever. Okay, yeah, and that's what. Let's see if we can put it on this one more time. It's a heart right there. That's showing up okay. And you guys have reason to rejoice, really, when you see what's going down and going around, when you realize these miracles that you're looking at, and you realize you're a member of a very exclusive royal family, it gives you reason to rejoice. And rejoice in me always, no matter what is going on. You can rejoice in your love relationship with me. This is a secret of being content in all circumstances. What's the secret of being content in all these circumstances? Your love relationship with me. Okay? Relationship, not religion. It's a relationship. You learn to trust me and you believe me, all of a sudden, all this stuff works. This is the secret of being content in all your circumstances, knowing that you have a relationship based on love with me. Now, so many people dream of the day when they will finally be happy, when they are out of debt, when their children are out of trouble, when they have more leisure time, and so on. While they daydream, their moments are trickling into the ground like just water spilling wastefully out of overturned bottles. Okay? So while they daydream, their moments are trickling into the ground like water spilling out of a glass, right? The knocked over glass, while you're not. Okay? Fantasizing about future happiness will never bring fulfillment. because fantasy is, well, unreality. It's fantasy. So fantasizing about future happiness will never bring happiness. Now, even though I am invisible and you can still kind of see me there in the clouds, I am far more real than the world you see around you. You're starting to figure out now that I am far more real. This is far, far more real than the matrix world that you see around you. Okay? I'm not saying that you live in the matrix, but you are in a fallen world. And fantasizing about future happiness never brings fulfillment. But when you realize that I am far more real than the world you see around you, all of a sudden you're not living in fantasy and unreality anymore. Because my reality is eternal and unchanging. Bring your moments to me, and I will fill them with vibrant joy. Vibrant joy. See the vibrations coming off of those clouds, vibrating right there? Vibrant joy. Bring your moments to me, and I will fill them with vibrant joy. Now, at this moment, is the time to rejoice in my presence. You guys having fun in my presence here? You guys enjoy the show? Are we enjoying my presence here at the moment? Are you getting caught up there with me in the clouds there? Yeah, that's the end of that one right there. So we're done with that. This is playing all of a sudden. Yeah, accidentally started playing. All right, so a lot of things have happened since this time frame right here. And a lot of things happened to lead up to this as well. And we're still plugging forward, aren't we? We are still going forward day by day. When I show you the openings and you see a lot of the flooding and a lot of the volcanoes and earthquake and stuff, doesn't that activity kind of look like, well, tribulation? Don't you think those people that are in those flood ravaged places and all the videos that I show in the opening, well, people in LA, people in North Carolina, all around the world are going through their tribulation. Everybody is. Okay? And you are overcoming the world in your tribulation. You're going from one circumstance and overcoming it and getting a little receiving a little crown or a victory over the world, which is a glory. And then you receive another glory and another glory. You're going from glory to glory in your tribulation. Okay? Everybody's hoping that they'll just disappear up into the clouds and won't have to go through tribulation. But that's what makes you stronger, is enduring tribulation, and overcoming it makes you stronger. If you were to escape tribulation, well, then you wouldn't have much strength, right? So a lot of people have this understanding a little different. Okay, they perceive things a little bit differently than what it really is. Okay, spiritual warfare is not letting this world get to you. They're trying all these different avenues to scare you, to intimidate you. There's people that will guilt trip you into doing stuff. Okay, you got to work with it. You got to forgive them. There's a lot that goes into it. And these are the tools that you use to work your daily life so the world doesn't overcome you and get to you. And then you get down in the dumps and you start thinking negatively about yourself and about the world. Okay. This is to bring you up to a level of confidence. Your faith has now gone into a new realm called knowing. All right. I complete your faith. Now you know that this is real, that the tribulation is now, that you're going through it, that the rapture is at any moment. The moment you decide to trust me and believe me, you see my face here in the clouds coming with power and great glory with this crown. That's my face. It's intriguing, it's interesting, it's captivating. You get caught up in it like a good book or a good song, and you are caught up with me in the clouds. We meet in the air of cyberspace because I can't come over and hug you right now. I'm stuck in this shattered body and I can't move too well, but I would love to interact with my family. So this is how I do it. We meet in the air of cyberspace where I provided a place here at YouTube where I live stream and I post all sorts of stuff that you can be where I may be. Okay? At any time, any video, you can be where I may be. At any time you can choose to trust and believe, and that's the moment you are raptured. You are caught up with me in the clouds. You're complete. While we are now you're complete and while we wait, you still move forward with patience and perseverance, overcoming obstacles each day, perfecting this craft of salvaging your day. The better you get at it, the more notches you have in your belt, the more experience you have it, the better you are. You become an expert at salvaging your day. You'll recognize something come at you and you'll say, oh, no, no, I'm not even going to let that get me down that trail of negativity. Right now, let's step aside, say a prayer. Jesus, help me accept the fact that these people don't understand. Whatever the prayer may be, sincere, help me accept, help me understand, help me, whatever it is that you're struggling with. These prayers open up pathways in your brain that help you connect to the spiritual realm where I can connect to you and help you. When you're praying within the will of God, okay? Not praying for material objects and all of this other stuff. You're praying for other people's well-being, their health. We've healed a lot of people through through daily excellence and through some of these chat rooms, okay? I'm there visiting you guys all the time in all these chat rooms, aren't I? You see me peek in and out of there. All right, we're doing serious work in these families that branch off into these other chat rooms where we meet these family members in the air too, don't we? We can't meet them, go over to their houses, but we can chat with them in a chat room, right? That's the same thing. You're meeting those family members in the air of cyberspace. Okay, that's how this works. If you take some of these things, these tools, and you've put them to use, well, that means you're taking these disciplines and you're practicing them. When you practice a discipline, that makes you a disciple by default. Okay, practicing a discipline makes a disciple. So if you're finding relief through these disciplines, that makes you a disciple. Keep practicing, keep going, keep salvaging your day, keep going from glory to glory to glory in your tribulation. And if something trips you up and you forget about this for a moment, that's when you catch yourself. All right, Jesus, I trust you. Help me gain, this perspective again on the world so my circumstances don't seem as bad. And it takes the edge off. It takes the sting off. It takes the sting off of death as well. Okay. It brings encouragement, hope, and peace in people's lives. Okay. That same peace, hope, and courage that comes from me into you, I want you to bring into other people's lives as well. Okay. Right where I put you, right where you're at. Okay. You just keep spreading this light right here into other people's lives. When you're smiling at them and you're interacting with people, you're putting off a positive vibe, even in the midst of their negative circumstances. And oh, where did that image go? And you're shining this light into their lives. Okay, and that's what we're trying to do is encourage people, lift them up. Oh, we can't get to that image, but it's all good. You understand what I'm saying. All right, you guys are doing well. You're having success. It's bringing peace and hope and courage in times of tribulation, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it bringing you peace, hope, and courage in the time of your tribulation? If it is, then you are indeed a disciple. You are part of this royal family. Okay? That's it for tonight. I love you all. I miss you all. until my next show, I'm a man of my word, word made flesh, so I could dwell among you, hang out with you guys, and do my show and hang out with my family in the air. Till my next show, I will be back. I'm a man of my word. And until my next show, I will be back. I am already back. You should be able to tell.